Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya ala salat. Hayya ala salat. Hayya ala falah. Hayya ala falah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah alladhi khalaqa al-insana fi ahsani taqwim wa ba'atha nabiyina mubashirina wa mundirin wa anzala ma'akum al-kitaba bil-haqq liyurshidu nasa ila sabilil huda wa yukhrijuhum min al-dhulumati ila an-nur. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna sayyidina Muhammad abduhu wa rasuluhu amma ba'd. يا عباد الله وأوصيكم ونفسي بالله وتقوى الله تعالى وتعاته. My dear believers, all praise, all majesty, all exaltation is due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Most High, who created us fi ahsani taqwim, in the best mold and structure, who created us with this beautiful countenance that we see in the mirror, who created us through arms and 2 hands and 2 feet, who created us in this symmetry that we find so important when we look at each other. But also, beyond that, just this symmetry that we have, he also created us with a mind and an intellect so that we can build skyscrapers and go to the moon, or create computers and phones that can do all these amazing things, and also to learn from our mistakes. And knowing that we would make mistakes, he sent prophets to bring us the good news and a warning. Good news of the akhirah for those who believe and work righteous deeds, and a warning for those who are ill and haughty and arrogant and only think about themselves and only about this me, and never thinking about anyone else or the community or the family. For those is Jahannam, the fire whose fuel is men and stones. Openly bear witness and testify that there is nothing and no one worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah alone. He has no partners and no associates. Also bear witness the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is the slave servant and messenger. And what follows thereafter this salutation, I advise you, my dear brothers and sisters, as well as I advise myself, to have the proper taqwa, the proper respect, the proper regard for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Most High, and to obey Him. And today's khutbah is about an Arabic word that I use all the time, but I came into a fuller understanding as I was preparing for this particular khutbah. And the Arabic word is hasana. I said it in my intro. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us in the best mold and structure. Sometimes it is typically translated in hasana is a word that when you translate it in English loses a little something. Because every time you see it, it means something a little different. So just translating, giving a one-word translation just doesn't really give it the true benefit, the true weight of that particular word. And so, as I said before, the fi asini takwin means the best structure or best mold, right? And so in that word, hasana means best. But in a dua that my mother, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward her for every syllable that she uttered and taught me, she taught us this particular dua that we say after every salat. And I say this now with my immediate family, and with my children and my wife after every salat. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanatan wa fil akhirati hasanatan wa qina adhaban nar. That Allah give us the good in this life, hasana again. So first it was translated as best, now it's being translated as good. Sometimes it's translated as excellent in this life and good in the next life, and save us from the torment of the hellfire. Or as our Imam Elijah says, save us from the torment of the appetites unchecked by knowledge. And I have to also give my mother credit for another place where this word hasana is used. That one of my favorite hadiths, and this was a hadith that was so crucial and central to my childhood. The youth committee that we had at Masjid Al-Ansar in Miami used this particular hadith as the model for everything that we did. And it's inna Allah kataba al-ihsana ala kulli shay. And that's whenever a Muslim endeavors to do something, he seeks to perfect it. Or a more accurate translation is Allah has prescribed excellence in everything, or Allah has prescribed perfection in everything. And so we have these three different places, these three different translations. And so when we look at the word hasana, going back to my original statement that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us fi hasani taqween, it's not just that he created us in excellence. It's not just that he created us best. He created us in perfection. That we are not born in sin and rancor. We are not born we're not accidents. The fact that we are here and breathing and walking today is a part of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's destiny and purpose for us. And that even though we may make mistakes in our human beings, in our action as human beings, but we were created perfect, flaws and all. So even our ability to learn from our mistakes is a part of our perfection. Our ability to make mistakes so that we can ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's forgiveness is a part of our perfection. That we should never be afraid or feel ashamed to call on the one who created us for the help that we need. Amen. And I love how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that hadith that Allah has prescribed this excellence, has prescribed this perfection. Because he uses the word khutbah, the same word that we use when khutbah alayhim musyan, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed fasting for us, right? It's like a doctor who has written a prescription. He knows what ails you. He knows where your weaknesses are. He knows what it is that you need to heal. He knows what it is that you need to be well. And so he prescribed fasting to teach us self-control and self-restraint, to teach us to live better habits, to get us on a better path, to teach us on that path of improvement, to temper us like you would a sword, or to put us in the fire and make us, to get rid of the impurities out. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the same thing, that he prescribed excellence for us. So not only were we created in perfection, but he prescribed our seeking of perfection. So Allah's prescription is not just a thing for us to do, but it's a thing for us to continually work toward. And again, the same word ihsan, or the same word hasana, is also the same as ihsan. These are the same words. It has the same roots. And when we read in the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves al-muhsinin, that he loves those who are the doers of good. That's again that same word hasana. And a Muslim is one who is generous and one who does good actions. And ihsan is goodness itself. So ihsan also means to perfect, or to be perfect, or to excel, or to show proficiently and excellency. Therefore, it can be considered that the Arabic word ihsan has a dual meaning of goodness and excellence. And also, ihsan, the same hasana, the same word, is the status of the highest show of faith in our religion. When the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, there's this beautiful hadith from where a man dressed all in white comes and questions the Prophet. And the companions are amazed because the Prophet is sitting there answering all of the questions. And one of the questions is, what is Imam? And the Prophet answers. And the second question is, what is ihsan? The same word, hasanah. And Allah's messenger, peace and blessings be upon him, said, ihsan is to worship Allah as if you see him. And if you do not see him, he sees you. And isn't that the definition of perfection? When we know that somebody is watching, when we know that our mom and dad are watching, isn't that when we're on our best behavior? Now, if we are athletes and we know someone who can affect our lives is watching, whether it be a scout or a coach from another school, isn't that when you give it 110%? That it's saying that this is a call to action for us to give, not just be base level, not just be good, but to seek to be greater. Even the Honorable Dr. Martin Luther King spoke on this concept of ihsan, whether he knew he was speaking on it or not. And in one of his speeches, he says, and when you discover that you will be in your life, when you discover what you will be in your life, set out to do it as if God Almighty called you at this particular moment in history to do it. Don't just set out to do a good job. Set out to do such a good job that the living, the dead, and the unborn couldn't do it any better. If it falls to you, your lot to be a street sweeper, sweep streets like Michelangelo painted pictures, sweep streets like Beethoven composed music, sweep streets like Leontyne Price sings before the Metropolitan Opera, sweep streets like Shakespeare wrote poetry, sweep streets so well that the hosts of heaven and earth will all pause and say, here lived a great street sweeper who swept his job well. And if you can't be a pine at the top of the hill, be a shrub in the valley. Be the best little shrub on the side of the hill. Be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a highway, then just be a trail. If you can't be the sun, then be a star. For it isn't the size that you win or fail. Be the best of whatever it is you want. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala even echoes this thought that when we look at all of the different messages and communication from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to us, one that resonates right here and now is that even though we cannot seek perfection, even though we cannot attain perfection, we are not perfect. We are always going to have our own human failings. We can seek it because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala judges us not by our outcomes, but by our struggles. We know that the one who struggles with Arabic is rewarded more than the one for whom Arabic comes naturally. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that man will get nothing but what he strives for, and soon the results of his striving will be made manifest. And Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, said, actions are judged according to your intentions, and everyone will get what is intended. So again, I remind you, my dear brothers and sisters, as well as I remind myself, that our prophet is telling us, just as Allah is inspiring us, to not just be good, but to be great. You know, being good is the base level. Right? We have in our vernacular, especially in our everyday, are you good? You good? You know, I'm good. You good? You know, and that good is just a base level. It can mean so many things, but it really means that I'm just doing the base level. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling us to greatness, to be above, to put in a little extra effort. That only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Akbar, or the greatest. But just like this property's benefactor, Honorable Muhammad Ali, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive him his sins and grant him paradise, who called himself the greatest. He called himself the greatest because of the extraordinary effort that he put into every fight, that he put into training, that he put in being the best that he could be, giving all of the credit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes we get caught up in just being average and just allowing ourselves to coast. You know, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala controls us to be something more. Imam Jamal Bey, a few weeks ago or last week, gave an excellent khutbah on Surah Asr. I suggest you all go back and listen to it. But Surah Asr advises us to be extraordinary, to seek greatness. Because remember, Surah Asr says, "Wal Asr, innal insana lafi khusr," that verily, by the token of time through the ages, all mankind is in loss. Everybody. The great multitudes. Not just this person, not just those who disbelieve. All mankind is in loss. Except for those who follow those 4 prescriptions. Except for those who believe and work righteous deeds. And except for those who join together in mutual teaching of truth and a mutual teaching of patience and constancy. That those 4 things help you to be extraordinary, because not everybody does it. Not everybody is willing to go out of their way to do these 4 simple things. Most people are willing to just coast. And just coasting means that you are going to be one of the darling. Just coasting means you're going to be one of the ones who are in kasra, in that state of loss. You're not going to be made whole because you're not doing the things that will make you whole. And so, you know, many might say, why am I reminding us of this word ihsan, or this word hasana, that we were created perfectly by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that after our perfect creation, Allah asks us to continue to seek perfection, excellence, and greatness. And so that we don't fall to the schemes of shaitan and feel that we are less than we are. So that we don't allow ourselves to be made to feel small and inadequate, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us to be great. It is only the scheme of shaitan that makes us feel less than, that makes us feel small when we are great and powerful beyond measure. When your boss tries to nitpick you for some small thing, or you don't get full marks on a test that is very subjective. Or when your children read in their history books that, and this is a quote, the Atlantic slave trade between the 1500s and 1800s brought millions of workers from Africa to the southern United States to work on the agricultural plantations. Workers. Just reduced the humanity of a whole group of people, a whole group of scientists and engineers, warriors and scholars, kings and queens, to the concept of just workers. Or we even see attempts today, and yeah, that wasn't too long ago, and that's still today and age, but I was reading a story today that our governor here in Texas is, again, seeking to dehumanize and reduce to the lowest common denominator people who were created at feet, us and Takween, in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's best mold and structure, in the best design for us. That he said, we're deploying every tool and strategy that we possibly can. The only thing we're not doing is that we're not shooting people who come across the border, because, of course, then the Biden administration would charge us with murder. As if charging with murder wasn't the thing that he was doing. As if they didn't deserve the humanity that we would give anybody else. That, yeah, you should be able to just shoot migrants for any reason and not be held accountable. Then again, we see this dehumanization happening over and over and over with the bell curve, calling African savages. And when we were building pyramids and schools in Timbuktu and Mali, where we were the center of learning, so many different places. That Mansa Musa was an emperor, was the world's richest man, and an African Muslim. So this khutbah is a reminder to you as well as myself that when we hear that little voice that asks us, who am I to be brilliant, to be gorgeous, to be talented, to be fabulous, that actually, who are you not to be? Allah created you perfectly and asked you to seek perfection. Your playing small doesn't serve anything in this world. And in understanding our greatness and acknowledging our greatness, then you know your worth. You can be the bigger person. You can ignore all those little things and not be bothered by the distractions that a shaitan sends to keep you off your path, to keep you off your destiny. think I need to close here to get to the next point. But so know your worth, my dear brothers and sisters. Know your value. Know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees or has a plan and a destiny for you, and that plan is not so small. That plan is destined just for you, just as you are unique by your fingerprints. That your very tips of your fingers are unique, that only you can do the thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has destined for you to do. Now, Allah's will be done, but He has a plan and a destiny for each of us, and it's up to us to do the best that we can to actualize and push ourselves beyond our boundaries so that we can fully actualize the fi'asni taqweem, this excellent mold and structure, so we can see the best that we can be, so we can be the best that we can be. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم I seek the refuge of Allah from Satan the rejected with the name of Allah, merciful benefactor and merciful redeemer. And in the second half I want to talk a little bit about how to actualize this concept of being great. You know, we look at the dictionary definition of great, and the adjective version is of an extent or an amount or an intensity considerably above the normal or the average. The noun version is important or distinguished person. You know, Bilal is known as one of the greatest muezzins. Right? Not just because he was handpicked by Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, but for the way that he carried about his job. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with him. Bilal ibn Rabah, the first of the muezzins. I know another great muezzin, that John Shakir is a great muezzin. And it's not simply because the sound of his voice could rattle your teeth and rattle the windows at the same time. It's not simply because he could break microphone systems with the call of his Allahu Akbar. But mostly it's because every day, at every prayer, he called that adhan, whether it was a room full of people or just him and the angels, in the same way. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive him his sins and grant him Jannah Firdaus, the highest station of paradise. And so another definition of being great, my dear brothers and sisters, and Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most beloved deeds of Allah are those that are most consistent, even if it's small. So here are a few ways that you can consistently do some small deeds that we can adopt to be great. It comes by following the acronym GREAT, just using G-R-E-A-T. Gratitude, responsibility, expansion, accountability, and time. Again, G-R-E-A-T. That being great is about gratitude, responsibility, expansion, accountability, and time. Gratitude. Can't be great without giving thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator and guardian and involver who created you. You can't be great without giving acknowledgement to the one who created the environment for you to be successful. But also, in addition to being great, and remember, being gratitude or being grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the opposite of being a disbeliever. It's the opposite of shirk. So you can't be successful without being gracious to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So one of the few ways that you could be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, again, just thinking of three things that every day, just think of three things that you are grateful for to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether it just be that you don't have to think about breathing. You don't have to think about making your heart beat. Whether or you have a roof over your head today. If it's just those three things alone, that not everybody has those three things. Not everybody's heart is beating that you knew yesterday. Not everybody has a roof over their head. So just thinking about what it is that you have that those others don't shifts your perspective. And Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, said, he who has not thanked the people has not thanked Allah. So second, in terms of gratitude, not only should you show gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but you should show gratitude to the people Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put in your life. If you have a spouse, be grateful for your spouse. If you have children, be grateful for your children, because not everybody who wants children can have children. If you have your parents still living with you, be grateful that your parents are still living with you, even if they gave you a hard time, because not everybody. Some people would love to have another date with their parents. So give them their due. Next is responsibility. I got to move quickly. As men, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the awesome responsibility to be protectors and maintainers. Kawamun, to be the protectors and maintainers. Ar-rijalun kawamuna ala nisa. That the men all together, he didn't say just the believers, didn't say just the Muslims, didn't say just the husbands, didn't say just the sons. He said all men are responsible for protecting and maintaining the role and the status of all women. So that's an awesome responsibility that we have, but it's one that we are designed to fulfill. That we are perfectly created to fulfill this particular role. So just step into that role. And it might stretch you every once in a while. It's meant to stretch you. That's all right. And a part of that protecting and maintaining, and part of that honoring those responsibilities and fulfilling those responsibilities, not only to those within your power, but to those that you owe a responsibility to. You need to demonstrate. Not only demonstrate, but you need to explain so their kids know why it is that you open the door for mom. Your kids need to understand why it is you do the things that you do. And sisters, you're not, you also have a responsibility. The sisters are the guardians of the ghaib, the unseen. And sometimes that's translated as the womb, the child that's in the womb. But that can be so many more, that you are hafiz of the ghaib. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala named you hafiz. He named you guardians in that particular responsibility. So you have the role to protect against everything else that men don't see. Because not all the time do we see the things that we need to address in the community. Not all the time do we have the perfect understanding of what it that needs to happen, and what's going on in the home. You are there, and you see something, you are the guardians of that unseen. You are the guardians of that that special environment. And we are to facilitate your guardianship. You got to keep moving. Not only does that R stands for responsibility, but R also means reaching out. Sometimes a part of our responsibility is seeking help. Sometimes as men, we don't want to ask for help. We don't want to ask for direction. We don't want to get that help we need. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encouraged us to get shura from those who are qualified. Shura can be counseling. Shura can be talking to an imam, talking to somebody else knowledgeable. Shura can take many things, but I encourage you as well as I encourage myself to seek out and reach out. Seek the help that you need. Make sure you have friends who can support you and sustain you and help you to have healthy relationships and maintain those healthy relationships. So the last R, there's 3 R's, is responsibility, reaching out, and maintaining the relationships. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says always for us to reverence the wombs that bore us. To have that respect and regard for the communities that we find ourselves in, to maintain those family ties. To make sure that and I said I was going to give you tips, make sure you call somebody on your phone list. Call a family member at least once a week. You know, if you can't do it every day or at least try to reach out, try to have those contacts, try to make sure you maintain that familiar relationship. Because the only way you can maintain it is through contact. You know, yeah, you might love them from a distance, but that's not a way to maintain contact. Expansion. I got a rush. Dikta arafu. And I'm saying expansion, it means that expand your network. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us in the communities for a reason. Communities exist of a vast array of people who have different life experiences and different things. Try to meet somebody else. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Dikta arafu. He separated us in the nation tribe so we could get to know each other, not so that we could despise each other. He meant for us to interact in communities, not be hermits, not just be living in our own. He meant for us to be able to know who our next door neighbor is, right? He meant for us to know those people outside. So try to meet somebody. Try to check on somebody that you met. If you know a person who took Shaheed here and you got their phone number when they came, make sure you call them at least a month or two later. At least check on them. Check on each other. Accountability. I know this was simple, and I got to rush through to get to the end, but nobody does anything without being accountable for. We know of the day of Yom Kippur, that one day we'll be accountable for all our actions, all our deeds. Only way for you to truly start new habits, to truly take on something new, is to hold yourself accountable for it. Every basketball game, every football game has a scoreboard, right? If I make distance, I know it marks what you've accomplished. So make sure, whether you have an accountability app on your phone, you have your own tracking or your own method, make sure you have some way of holding yourself accountable, or you're telling your spouse, have an accountability partner. Make sure you hold somebody accountable for doing those things, those improvements, those little things that help you to become great. And lastly, take advantage of the time that you have. The Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, said, take advantage of 5 before 5. And it's all talking about time, that your youth before your old age, your health before your sickness, your wealth before your poverty, your free time before your busyness, and your life before your death. We only get one life, my dear brothers and sisters, and just like a Bedouin ice seller, someone who was selling ice in the desert, that ice is consistently melting. So have mercy. Be constantly aware of the fact that your wealth, the wealth that you've been blessed with, is melting away. It's melting away. We don't get this time back. That ice in the desert just continues melting. It doesn't get to get refrozen. And just like we have a freeze coming up here on Monday or Tuesday, we won't get the opportunity for that ice in the desert. So make sure you get the most bang for your buck. If you're going to be great, you got to be willing to do what average people are unwilling to do. That hustle means sacrifice, sweat, hard work, long days, and crazy determination. But it is worth it, my dear brothers and sisters. Because Yom Kippur, after the day of Yom Kippur, after the day all counts are due, getting into Jannah is forever. This life is temporary. So we sweat now so we don't have to pay later. So again, my dear brothers and sisters, let's seek to be great. Let's seek to have gratitude, responsibility, expansion, accountability, and master our time. Because truly Allah loves al-muhsinin, the doers of good. And verily, Allah is with the muhsinin, the doers of good. For those who have done good is the best reward, paradise. And even more, and sort of Al-Rahman, is there any reward for good other than doing good? Oh Allah, we cannot manage this life ourselves without you. Please make of our lives what you want us to be, what you prefer it to be. Do not allow us to act on our own, but bless us to act only in obedience and according to your will. Help us to be of those who hear and obey. Forgive us. We're asking your forgiveness. To use your current. Kimu Salam.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayya ala salat, hayya ala falah, qam fi salat, qam fi salat. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah.
La ilaha illallah, Muhammadan Rasulullah. Feet to feet, shoulder to shoulder. Yeah, let's build up the lines we can. Try to make them as straight as we can. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن مع العسر يسرا إن مع العسر يسرا فإذا فرغت فانصب وإلى ربك فارغب الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر
الله أكبر
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد الله أكبر
الله أكبر
سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر
الله أكبر
الله أكبر الله أكبر
الله أكبر
الله أكبر السلام عليكم ورحمة الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله Just a few brief announcements. First and foremost, please give generously as Zakat. We are still working through trying to upgrade the masjid in terms of the enhanced security. So your donations are definitely appreciated so that we can beef up security so we can keep from incidents like what happened a couple of months ago from happening again. Please support our vendors next door, support the meals next door. If the Muslim Journal is out there, support the Muslim Journal. We continue to have Talim online every Sunday at 1:30, and our Sisters Hanukkah has been going for 10 years. 10 years plus, and they continue to meet every second and fourth Saturday of the month. You can go to borrowsisters.com, I think, for more information, or see Sister Salima Shaheed. I don't see anybody else to give me any other announcements, so we'll call it that. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.